Good morning, folks. Back again on track a little earlier than planned. In fact, on a nice Sunday morning. I'm sitting in Prague in one of the parks in, I think, downtown area. It's pretty cool. Anyway, so today's topic is something, what do you call, quite intricate, quite complicated, I would say, and something that's pretty close to my heart and something that I've been trying to get better at, you could say. I want to talk about Stoicism, a Stoic man's emotions, particularly from the angle of strength, resilience, love, longing, distance, connection. In the angle of, let's say, relationships, particularly the emotional ones, or let's say marital ones, or pretty strong ones, anything that has to do with care and affection, right? Now, what's the main theme behind it, right? Why am I doing it? Is mostly around centered around the discussions, let's say, that I've had with people around me, or any recent experiences that I've gone through that makes me want to obviously talk about it from the perspective of, let's say, sharing with your people. Have you actually wondered if your strength, or let's say a perceived strength, for example, right, is pushing people or love away? If you've been in that spot as a man in particular, yes, probably this podcast is for you. I don't claim to have all the answers, neither do I, but at least if we can make you think, that's probably one of the objectives that I had. Since I'm sitting in a public park, there's bound to be a bit of disturbances and people moving around. Don't mind. Hopefully, whatever I'm talking is coming out pretty clear. I think last week I was in Austin, and me, Money, and Sat, we were all Gans, and we were all driving around in Las Vegas, going in the car and just talking about people, how all of us have changed a bit, maybe a little bit more than what we wanted, or for better or worse. Some of general discussions around life when four old uh, friends or dogs meet. That's what we're saying. And then again, I think Sat made a very profound statement in a innocuous, casual manner and said, "P3, that's me. You're, whatever you are now is something that we've been living all our life. You're now normal." Is actually what was the normal for all of us for the last 27 years. It's just that you've changed pretty late. When he said that, it actually hit me hard because um, I was actually quite embarrassed to admit, and in fact, I admitted that it was true, because that was the fact, right? I had lived such a, let's say, erroneous, stupid life for very long that I felt bad having wasted time and not lived the more virtuous, let's say, person that I could be, right? When he said that, yeah, I just said, Sat, yeah, you're probably right. I mean, even though it was a very funny discussion in the context in which we were, it was just too true that it really hit me hard. So that was one that I figured. The second one was, when just one day before I was leaving Austin, uh, what was that? I think 7th of October, I think. Then I was with Gans and Money, and we were, driving around and having a chit chat, having coffee and stuff. And Money is very close to me, and he is very good at reading people, and also has pretty good emotional intelligence. So he was like, P3, something is very different about you this time. You're not normally, you don't normally behave this way. What's going on? You're holding on to a lot of things dearly in your heart. You're not telling us, you're not talking it out, you're not emoting as much as you do. Do you want to open up and tell something that you have in your mind? And then I smiled. I deflected the topic to this, that, Vegas women, some nonsense, completely unrelated for a few times. And he caught that and said, "Yeah, yeah, nice trick, you old dog. Why don't you just still give you a couple of more chances for you to talk? Be happy to sit and listen for the next couple of hours." And then I again deflected, and then he just gave up and said, "Yeah, okay, it's up to you." I think it, I think it's just the way I have kind of shaped myself over the last maybe few months. It's probably the result of a few more things that I've done in the last few years, and a few incidents that have happened that eventually made me go into this kind of a zone. Whether it's good or bad, I have no idea, but this is how I am right now, and just the fact, right? And I also told money, right, while deflecting the topic and not really talking what I had in my mind, even with my extremely close friends. I mean, you can't get closer friends than Money and Gans and Sat and bunch of these guys for me. In even in India, I have a couple of guys, Ajki, Murli, and a couple of other guys with whom I talk pretty much anything. But I just didn't feel like opening up on all aspects. But I also told them that about an incident in probably, I think was it 2021 or 22? I forgot. I did a bike trip with my MLM Male Mangalam cousins. We do a couple of bike trips a year, and we've been doing it since 2015. That's like 10 years of uh, brotherly ridership memories. And that was when I think I cried. And when I say I cried, I literally wailed. It was one of the most, arguably, a lowest point in my life, a very painful one. I don't know if most painful or maybe the second most painful, I forgot. But yeah, it was quite painful. That's all I remember, and I cried. I think probably for about 20 minutes continuously in front of six other grown up men, all my cousins, first cousins and second cousins. Sorry, second cousins. And yeah, it was pretty bad, but that was the last time I remember. And yeah, post that, when did I cry? Post that was now, I think exactly a month ago, September 11th. In the gym, I celebrate September 11th as my gym anniversary. So I started regularly going to the gym from that day in September 2022. So I treat that as a special day. Uh, I think it was more of an epiphany moment, or a happiness based crying moment, or maybe a moment where you remembered, or you were reminded of the pain that you were, or the person that you were once 3 years back, a broken man, and how far you had come. I think that instantaneously when I thought about it, uh, I don't think tears came, but that the gulping moment of not suddenly your throat chokes a bit, you couldn't talk, that kind of feel came for a few seconds. Uh, yeah, I felt a little emotional, and then I lifted some weights quickly to ward it off, and get back. So yeah, this is this is where you are. What is done is done. Let's just keep moving. Okay, got some sun out finally, which is good, shining right on me. Great. Cool. Now, this is, I mean, just giving some background or examples of some anecdotal references, to set the context for what we're going to talk a little more in detail. This is going to be pretty detailed, and I'm not going to time it as usual. So, yeah, I mean, hear it in fast 1.5x or 1.2x if you would, if you find it pretty long and boring. Anyway, okay, let me go into defining Stoic role and what it means to be a Stoic person. I'm not going to talk about why you need to be, but if you decided to be like that, which is possible, which requires practice, immense practice, by the way. But I'm just going to define what it is, and I'm going to take the, let's say, the OG of Stoicism. That's Marcus Aurelius, how he defined Stoicism, right? So, what does playing the Stoic role mean? That's a question that if you want to ask yourself or anyone, right? According to Marcus Aurelius, Stoicism is the disciplined practice of mastering your own mind and emotions, focusing only on what lies within your control, and living virtuously. Remember this, living virtuously, regardless of external circumstances. I hope this is clear. I'm going to read it again. It's very important. It's the disciplined practice. You just hear it, right? It's the disciplined practice of mastering your own mind and emotions, focusing only on what lies within your control, and living virtuously, regardless of external circumstances, right? And then he says, Stoicism for Marcus Aurelius is about self mastery, acceptance of fate, unwavering pursuit of virtue, and maintaining inner peace in the face of external chaos. It's a philosophy of living well by being the master of your own reactions and always striving for goodness in thought and deed, or let's say actions. Now, I think this is as best as I can define Stoicism to be. I mean, I can't do better than what Marcus has already done. But yeah, so if you have to go a little, let's say, deeper into it, I'll do that now. So essentially, what he says is you should have power over your mind and not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This is what he says in some of his quotes. Soon you will have forgotten the world, and soon the world would have forgotten you. So basically, he talks about you being a speck in the world, larger world. You're a nothing. You're a very transient being. So there's no need to think too much about yourself in the first place. It's like more of controlling your, let's say, ego or how you've lived or how you should be living. And then he says, if you're distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but due to your estimate of it or let's say analysis of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. So essentially, what does it boil down to, right? I mean, if you remember the definition that I gave just a few seconds back, this is not about not feeling or feeling emotional at all. I mean, we are not robots. We are humans. Obviously, we have emotions. We want two most important things in life from what I've seen as was relationship and money, right? You need money to live, to survive. When I say money, it's resources in terms of, let's say, cash, land, or something material things that you need to get by in life. That's obviously number one. Without that, you will obviously struggle. And then you need relationships. I mean, you could have all of the former ones, but if you don't have the second one, that's going to be extremely painful. I've seen a lot of lonely people. That's not easy, and relationship is very much required for you to lead a reasonably fulfilling emotional life, and have a reasonably good lifespan and also health span, right? Now, this doesn't mean you don't get emotional. It just means you are emotional but you don't show it, right? It's just developing mastery over how you emote or how you show your emotions. It can be anger, it can be resentment, it can be love, affection. mm, what else? All kinds of let's say emotions that that a man goes through. And here I'm purposefully restricting it to men because stoicism in general is an aspect or a virtue which is traditionally, historically, and evolutionarily associated with how men should live their life. And I'm not going to go into why women should not. It's up to you if you want to practice that. But this session is just for for those young men who want to lead a stoic, virtuous life if they want to do that, right? Yeah. So life throws a lot of stuff at you, right? It's and generally we know it's pretty hard. It gets tough over time, and then kind of eases by around 50, 55, and you either potentially given up or whatever you dreamed never happened, and you resign to your fate. And then it's much like the kudu or the deer that was caught by the hyenas, and then it just broke your leg, and then your fate is just in its jaws. It's just a matter of time when it rips your heart out and you bleed to death. So you kind of resign to that fate, and then you start enjoying yourself because there's nothing much to do. Essentially, there's lots of external factors that's going to affect you. It could be at office, it could be at home, it could be your relationships, it can be close ones, right? It can be your spouse, your children, can be your close friends, colleagues, friends. It can be anything that can happen in life that's going to affect you for sure. It's not something that you can run away from. It's not something that you can escape from. It's something that's going to happen to you, to me, to all of us, all through our lives. How you react is something that's under your control. That's what he says, right? It's just about mastering your mind and emotions and focusing on what is within your control and living virtuously irrespective of what's happening around you. Right? So this is basically discipline at its best. Now, one of the questions people might ask is, how do I know if I'm stoic, or how do I become one, right? So now the question is, I don't know if I'm qualified enough to say that if you're stoic. It doesn't mean you're unemotional, but of course, the definition clearly says that if you can master your emotions and your mind, you are stoic to an extent. But one thing I can tell you is, even if you're not, if you're that emotional person that you react strongly, you keep emoting when it's not required, you give unsolicited advice when people don't want it, you quickly jump into suggestions and advice when people don't really want, you snap, you react angrily, you talk more than required. All of these are, let's say, not the qualities or virtues associated with stoicism. It's quite the opposite. Then you have some work to do. Now, The good news is, if you're not that person, you can become that, because this is much like most of the things. Like I said, it's a trainable skill, just like going to the gym and working out your muscles, or doing yoga and becoming more, let's say, stronger or more flexible, right? So this is something that you should practice if you want to become or get to that league. Now, that's more about the definition. I took more time to explain because this is fundamental to the parts that we cover a little bit more. Cool. Now, one of the things that people might ask is why men adopt this role. Uh, I think primarily it's just a societal thing, evolutionary, and sometimes it could be a personal reason that someone adopts it. Like, for example, I adopted it quite recently because of some, let's say, recent events in my life or things that have hurt me in the past, and started doing this more as a cope, and more as a means to protect myself from getting hurt again in life, because it is not a natural thing for me in general, and I'm kind of, usually I'm more vulnerable or more emotional, but I became completely the opposite in the last 6 months. Now that I'm not even sure which is the right person, right? But anyway, coming back to the topic, yeah. So multiple reasons people adopt it, but I would generally think that the society, in fact, actually expects you to be this way while not asking you to be this way. That something that I can say. Um, I think if you look at most of the, let's say, strong people in the world, particularly the strong men in the world, they've generally been quite. They've espoused or radiated strength and calmness in some form, right? You would not find them reacting badly or being very emotional. You would find them competent and full of confidence, right? Again, these are trainable skills, much like I've practiced or I'm trying to practice, but these are trainable skills. So I think this is how the society expects. While people might come and say, particularly some your close, let's say, the people that you love, particularly if it's women, they'll come and say, oh, you're not emotional, you come across as too indifferent or cold. No, I want you to emote and tell what you have in mind. This is what they'll usually, you'll get asked. It's up to you if you want to do that. I'm not going to either say that you should or shouldn't. I If you had asked me what I would do, I would probably not react too much. I would just probably laugh it off with a joke, or just not say much around this topic. Yeah, so positive aspects to it. Yeah, you just come across as very reliable, strength, and people can read your emotional stability and calmness, and the calm confidence that comes with it will radiate. You don't have to say that you're confident or strong, but people can actually feel it when you practice stoicism. Okay, yeah. Coming back to one of the downsides to it, right? I did touch upon it a little bit, but I'll go a little deep. Potential, let's say, misunderstandings. But I mean, we all need relationships. If you're not bothered about that, probably this topic is not even for you. But if you want to be a stoic man or a person, and if you're having struggle finding, let's say, love or a close relationship, then probably you'll find meaning to what I'm probably trying to convey. One of the misunderstandings is it can be perceived as pure sheer arrogance or indifference, or you're just a cold icy man. This happens, and I intuitively think that the other people think of that about you when you practice it. I felt it, but that's what it is. Your calmness will just come across as emotionally super distant and indifferent, because you're just too composed, right? You're barely displaying any emotion. Your partner may interpret that uh, you're not invested in them enough. I think, particularly if it's a girl who's involved. Obviously, I'm this more of relationship I'm talking about. Let's say a caring, loving relationship with a spouse or a girlfriend, or any other girlfriend that you have. Obviously, she may think that you are not invested enough in her, because women look for emotional cues, stability, and also uh, how much you are invested in her. And if she is very unsure of your investment because of your emotional restraint, that can seed a lot of doubts in her whether you actually care for her, which can probably take you apart rather than bringing you closer. That's the paradox of life. While you have to be stoic, and resilient, which is something that they expect. Too much of it can actually even separate you and take her apart from you. That's a downside. Point number two is less verbal or physical reassurance. Stoic individuals often show love through actions, not words. Partners who value verbal affirmation may feel neglected, again, similar to what I just mentioned. Again, so the key here is about, yeah, I mean, how do I put it? It's pretty hard, right? You're not actually showing it through words, right? You're not saying that I love you. You're not saying that I care for you, but you're actually doing it in a very indirect way. It could be through some actions, some help, something that you do, um, which shows that you care, which shows that you have a lot of unbridled affection, a sea of emotions in you towards her or him, but you choose not to say it out in words, but only through actions. How you act is up to you, but yeah, it's mostly through actions. You don't necessarily emote. Point number three, misinterpreting resilience. Strength in adversity may seem like shutting down, emotionally leaving partners confused and unsure if support is truly present. Yeah, this is another downside. Sometimes you just come across as a robot, or maybe someone who's super reliable or super composed, that people don't know if you're human enough or you have a heart, right? That you can come across as someone like that, which is why probably the actions part makes, you should keep that in mind. But yeah, this is how people perceive. So these are the downsides that I mentioned, three, four downsides. Another point is emotional needs of partners. The emotional needs partners might have that Stoicism can unintentionally neglect: nurturance, warmth, and emotional presence. Many people feel loved when they hear, I'm here for you, I love you, or receive a comforting gesture. Desire for vulnerability. Partners often want to see real feelings, joy, sadness, concern, shared openly, which deepens emotional intimacy. Seeking emotional reciprocity. Partners want their moments of weakness met with empathy and sincere emotional response, not solutions. Yeah, I think these are pretty clear, right? So, I mean, these are points that comes from strong emotional connection that you have with someone that you care for, or someone that you truly love. Uh, Whatever it is, right? I just think love is an extreme form of care and affection. There's nothing different. Uh, but yeah, when you have that and you don't show it very openly in terms of words, it can be pretty. Uh, I think it can be pretty disrespectful for the other person, because the other person is, pretty clueless on where you stand. That's one downside that may happen, because you're not saying "I love you," "I'm here for you," or a gesture, so it's pretty difficult for the other person. And they also want to see a little bit of vulnerability, whether you display it in by words or actions. That's something that you got to figure out for yourself. But when there's a absolute lack of vulnerability, then people are actually wondering if there's a human element to you, right? So that can be a downside. Cool. So in terms of offering solutions, yeah, I think this is pretty clear, right? The emotional reciprocity in moments of weakness met with empathy and sincere emotional response. I think this is pretty straightforward. It's something that I've also learned over time, that when most people emote or say something, you don't necessarily give out advice or give a solution. You could just listen and empathize. And I think this empathizing part is very important, because you're then probably putting yourself in the other person's shoes to actually live, let's say, her life or his life, and then figure out what is it that he or she is likely going through, and then you can feel it, right? That's the beautiful part of it. And if people are thinking, how can a stoic person who's so cold and icy do that? That's the paradox, or that's the beauty of this talk, right? That people can actually, you can empathize. And in fact, if you empathize more with the other person, you will actually be more stoic. As my personal opinion, my personal take, that's something that I consciously work on with, with beautiful, clear, glaring examples too. Cool. Now, there's a also a little bit of psychological insight into why people may feel very distant with stoic men or have misunderstandings, right? The emotional unavailability can be very hurtful. Like, we are social beings, And when the people that you care for or the people that care for you see that you're emotionally distant and not available when they think you should be, right? This is the key part. When they actually think that you should be available and you're not, if you're not, then it can lead to very painful experience for the other person, particularly if that's a girl. And yeah, that's one downside again. Uh, the key thing here, guys, is healthy stoicism is actually quite responsive in the sense that you always respond calmly, uh, but also actionalize care and demonstrate warmth when needed through actions and not necessarily the words. You don't necessarily say, but you act and act very decisively. That's very important. Cool. So this is pretty much on what I want to talk about the misunderstandings and how a stoic person, a man, could probably emote or manage the relationships. Again, these are things that I've personally experienced in recent times, which is why I'm talking about it. Now, coming to some, let's say, real life examples, right? I'll not say all of it, but I'll just speak about some of it from close range. I think in November 2023, uh, I had an issue with one of my daughter's actions on something, right? It was way back, a couple of years ago, right? November 2023. And I came to know of what she did. I was very upset. I didn't say anything. I was very disappointed. I didn't react when actually, most fathers would have gotten enraged and angry. I didn't even react. I just went to the gym. It was around 7:30 in the evening. I just changed my clothes, went to the gym, worked out, and showed all my anger and channelized all my energy there. I didn't speak to her for more than a month. That's about it. Uh, and then eventually she came. She spoke to me, and this has happened a few times when that's how I do. But by now she's pretty clear that if she does something that I don't approve of or things that is wrong and I don't like them, and I'm not going to react. I'm not going to beat her. I'm not going to shout at her. I just withdraw. I'm just going to go into a shell and I'm not going to talk to her. That is how I generally do. Uh, I don't think I have the energy to get angry with people. In fact, over the last 1 year, my wife has been telling me, and most wives don't like their husbands any which way, right? So my wife has been telling me, ah, I mean, such an angry person. I mean, I'm known as an extremely petulant, angry person, right? I'll just slap just like that. I used to be. And then she's like, why are you not getting angry these days? I'm like, what do you mean? I said, no, there have been like tons of occasions recently when, we've done something that you don't like or we've done something that's absolutely ridiculously stupid and puerile. But, you just don't even react. You just laugh it off or you smile and you know, I don't know. I mean, I asked her like, okay, give me some examples of the stupid things that you did, and when I reacted like that, and she says, I don't exactly remember, but there have been quite a few in the last few months, and I don't know if you listen and ignore or you just don't process it. It just seems to be like you have no reaction to it, and it's quite surprising. Then I said, okay, isn't that pretty cool? Maybe I've learned to restrain my emotions. Yeah, so that's one thing that you can do. Another example was, yeah, in September before I left for US, there was a managing committee meeting in which me and the other women were there, part of pet subcommittee. We went for a small discussion between 9 to 9:30 in the evening, and I said I got to go to sleep. It's pretty late. I was walking with the secretary there, and her tower is like 5 blocks away from me, and we just left together. And then she got talking about a few association related topics, and then as my tower came, I just kept walking with her to her tower, and then she said, "Hey, your tower is here. Why are you coming along?" I said, "No, it's the right thing to do. I'll walk till your tower." And then we kept walking and walking, and then she started talking a little bit more about some troubles in association, some politics that she has to tackle, things that she has to face as a secretary. We talked for I think another 1 hour. We walked around the blocks for a few more. I think exactly an hour, 10:35, 10:40. And then she spoke more. She opened up a little bit, and then by the end of it, I gave her some tips on how she could potentially handle it. I didn't say that this is the solution, but I said this is what, these are some options that you could consider. You're strong enough to actually take care of it yourself. The way you fought and come into the society played a huge role in terms of progress. And then, she felt a little, I think, emotionally happy at the end of the discussion. Felt good, is what I could read in her eyes. She spoke about her life, married life, what's going on, a little bit around, superficial aspects around it, a little deeper. And then I said, why are you telling all this to me? And then she said, I don't know, Vinod. I mean, we just walked and then we just talked. I just felt like you could be a face I could trust and tell you. I'm like, thanks you, you feel that way. I'm honored. Good night. And I hope you do well. And then I just left. A couple of days later, she in fact messaged me and said, I, you know, I did this, this step A, B, and C, and it's worked out exactly as, we kind of discussed, or she hoped it would turn, and she considered that as a victory, which I was very happy to read. And I said, you're strong enough to take care of yourself. I told you, right? So that was another thing. So the example series, you don't necessarily go and poke yourself into people's lives. You don't go and over invest unnecessarily, because people don't generally like it, unless even in a very close relationship. I do that even with my wife, right? So a lot of times she'll come and talk about some issues at work, or something that pains her, or some actions of mine that have probably pained her. It happens quite a lot, or some actions of my daughter that pained her. And then I would just listen and not react. Then I would say something, and then I would probably change topic or give a very small superficial suggestion, and then I would just move on. I think even she senses it that I'm probably emotionally distant of late, but it's just, it's not by it's not random. I could say that it's by design. Cool. Now, I think one of the most beautiful things of all this, right? I have to say that one of the most strong stoic persons that I've met in life, I've seen, is actually my father. Uh, that I have actually thought if I could be like him in my 40s. And fortunately, I was not like him in my early 40s, at least in my late 40s, I'm catching up. And now I think I'm probably as good as him or even better than him, but in most ways. He was way stronger than most men that I've come across. And I could say that because I just find myself blindly safe with him. I would say that's the right word. I could just trust him to solve problems. I could trust him to take care of most tough situations that comes our way. And I think even in his life, there have been a lot of tough spots that he's been in, and I've seen him handle them with great composure and emotional restraint. To add to that, the way he handles my mom. My mom is probably a tough woman to handle. The way he handles her is actually pretty good. And she says that she feels safe with him, and he's a very restraintful, calm man who could handle a storm. Yeah, so that's something that I thought I should say. So, Dad, good job. Probably, I'm just learning it from you. Uh, yeah, he's been through things, struggles in and out of it, lack of money. Yeah, I think it, even when I've been in job, out of job, zero money in the bank, struggles, trying to even become a taxi driver. I've tried all of it, right? He never said a word. He just, calls me. He doesn't ask me if I'm in a job, not in a job, whether I have money, nothing. At times you would think that is he really indifferent? Is he really my dad? Is he a father? But I kind of think that it's a strong belief that I'm capable of taking care of myself is how I interpret it. Because that's the probably the right way to interpret. There's nothing your dad can do beyond the point, right? And shouldn't. If you're a man, you should figure out what it is that you want to do, and that's how I am. I don't really care much of what happens tomorrow. Okay, if there's no job, there's no money. I'll figure it. I'll drive a taxi or clean somebody's toilet. I don't really care, right? I'm going to live my life the way I think it's deems fit. Anyway, so cool. I want to give some tips for balancing stoicism with vulnerability. This can be a bit of a paradox because I know this is pretty complicated so far. It's pretty heavy. But if you're still staying on, it means that you're really interested in becoming one. I So coming to the tips, kind of an outright disclosure. I don't know what the right or the best answer is for this because I'm a very flawed human. I'm a very, very flawed man who's made all kinds of mistakes that one could in life. Uh, so obviously, you could feel that there's a lot of regret of the lost time or the things that have days and times in which I've been stupid. I feel very bad about it. That's the truth. But also, there's a lot of wisdom. All those regrets, all those moments of stupidity has also taught me how not to be and hopefully become a better person. And there's a lot of catching up to do for the time that I've lost. Right. So cool. So some of the tips that I can give is, I mean, it's up to you if you want to verbalize it or act. I would probably do the latter, act rather than verbalize. And if I verbalize, it's mostly through some gestures of warmth, more of active listening than talking, uh, or some actions in very subtle ways, or some manner that is usually quite indirect but subtle. I don't show my emotions as directly unless I'm super comfortable with that person, particularly if it's a girl. I think the key thing is, like Marcus Aurelius said, is to probably the one that I learned a lot is to understand and accept people as they are, and also put myself in their shoes. If I put myself in their frame or in that context, what is it that I would feel? I think that kind of helped me frame my response or actions. For example, there have been spots in which I know that the other person is expressing or expecting, not expecting me to emote or express myself in some way because the situation demanded that. But I deliberately didn't. And for like, 4 5 days when the other person can be extremely embraced and angry with me that they can go distant completely. But I do that deliberately because the situation demanded it. Because of, let's say, the last conversation or a text that I would have had, and the kind of emotional upheaval she or he might go through. And in that state, then I'm thinking, okay, this is probably what is going through in her mind, and I shouldn't really probably make it more difficult for her or him by doing this. And in that case, you give them space, you restrain, and then give enough gap for them to process. Then also wonder what's making him go silent. You give the person enough time and space to process the emotions, and you don't express anything in a outward emotional way. Yeah, essentially, you sense other people's pain, you care greatly, but choose not to show overt emotional angles or reactions. Essentially, empathy is always about expressing feelings, not but understanding and guiding the action wisely. Cool. What else? Some other tips. So Stoic might comfort themselves and others quietly, offering help, presence, or practical support instead of visible emotion. They may believe helping or supporting is more valuable than sharing or displaying feelings. Partners may not see or feel their empathy because it's not communicated in openly emotional ways. Yeah, I think we covered it. Stoics often use cognitive empathy, mentally putting themselves in another's position, thinking logically about the partner's needs and acting accordingly. They may reflect, what does she need right now? How can I help ease her pain or suffering? And the problem here is, while you actually are living her pain and feeling, yeah, since you're not showing it, the other person is actually thinking you're an asshole. You're very emotionally distant, but that's what comes with the choices that you make in life. Nothing is balanced, right? Yeah, that's about it. I think yeah, I think I shared some good life examples with my own personal life, with some anecdotes from association, etc. And I've had some very beautiful recent interactions with people here in US till last week. Good interactions with people in Austin, Las Vegas, Detroit, etc. Had good time, and I think that calmness and emotional stability, along with empathy, is all part of your stoic mindset. And again, if you're someone who wants to build that, it is buildable. It takes time. It's not like I can't give a time frame that it will happen in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or you read some article or watch a YouTube video like this. It doesn't mean you will become that person. Uh, it takes years and years of practice, self-discipline, mastery, and practicing restraint. Every time someone says something, let's say, to evoke a strong, sharp reaction from you, you should control it and then not react. There have been tons of situations that I've practiced it and passed pretty beautifully at office, for example. When things don't go your way, people try and irritate you, people trying to put you down, or there's not, let's say, support from someone that you expect that doesn't come, and then it can all lead to super emotionally charged situations, and how you react at the time is what defines your stoicism and emotional intelligence, right? So things like emotional restraint, emotional intelligence, stoicism, empathy for others, etc. It's all intertwined. They all have complex relationships with each other, and yeah, I mean, it's wonderful if you want to practice and become better at it. I've gotten better at it over time, and yeah, as and when I learn more, I'll probably share, and maybe you should too. Yeah, the sun is finally shining again. It's probably time to end. I think it's been a long conversation in a beautiful park in Prague. I'll see you next week, hopefully from Bangalore. Cheers. And yeah, be sure to share it with friends. Or if you've been through such a situation, let me know how you would have reacted. Would you emote? Would you not? Or if you show it in terms of actions, what would those actions be? Cheers. Bye.